Convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell refused to answer any questions yesterday during a deposition behind closed doors for the House Oversight Committee. Maxwell, a longtime companion of Jeffrey Epstein, is serving a 20-year federal prison sentence for her role in aiding Epstein's sexual abuse of underage girls. But she repeatedly invoked her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination yesterday. Watch.
Ms. Maxwell, did you at any time play any role in Jeffrey Epstein's activities involving the recruitment, grooming, or trafficking of young women or girls?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Can you please provide us with all the names of other additional co-conspirators to the crimes perpetuated by you and Jeffrey Epstein?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Committee released that just hours after they did the deposition. Maxwell's trying to get her conviction overturned. This has long been true. The Supreme Court, though, rejected her appeal last year. Then in December, she requested that a federal judge in New York consider what her attorneys describe as substantial new evidence that her trial included constitutional violations. Maxwell's attorney told the Oversight Committee that she would be willing to speak fully and honestly, again, if granted clemency by President Trump. It's a huge if. Lawmakers, of course, are speaking out. After learning some of the Epstein files, the DOJ invited members of Congress to view at its headquarters have remained redacted, despite promises otherwise. Remember, the whole point was going to get to see them in their unredacted form. Congressman Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie, the co-sponsors of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, said some of the documents appeared to have been redacted by the FBI or grand juries before they even arrived at the Justice Department. While Congressman Jamie Raskin accused the DOJ of being in a cover-up mode.
What I saw that bothered me were the names of at least 6 men that have been redacted that are likely incriminated by their inclusion in these files.
There are 6 men, some of them with their photographs, that have been redacted, and there's no explanation why those people were redacted.
What we're after is the men who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women to. We want those names published. We're not out to embarrass people. And the problem is we went in there hoping to see that in 302 forms. What we found out is those 302 forms were redacted before they got to the DOJ. At least one is a U.S. citizen. At least one is a foreigner. And the other 3 or 4 have names. I'm not sure if they're foreign or U.S.
And which field do they work in? Is it finance, banking, political?
One is pretty high up in a foreign government.
And some are, they're, one of the others is a pretty prominent individual.
I went over there and I was able to determine, at least I believe, that there were tons of completely unnecessary redactions in addition to the failure to redact the names of victims. And so that's troubling to us. We need to be investigating the money. We need to be investigating the organizational hierarchy. There's no way you run a $1 billion international child sex trafficking ring with just 2 people committing crimes, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. No way. It doesn't work like that.
This all comes after newly released files were shown to contain references to President Trump, as well as Elon Musk and other prominent individuals. Raskin went on to say Trump's name was redacted in a number of different places, including in conversations between Epstein's lawyers and Trump about the 2009 plea deal. It's kind of at the heart of this. The DOJ and the White House did not immediately respond to requests for comment from MS Now, but so far there's no evidence of any criminal wrongdoing by any of those mentioned. We are going to hear much more about this from Congressman Khanna when he joins Morning Joe a little bit later this morning. But Congressman Massie, for his part, has already threatened he might go to the House floor and read some of these names that he was able to read in unredacted forms at the DOJ. And then we turn our eyes to the world stage and the impact that it's having there, because King Charles III says he is ready to support UK police looking into claims that former Prince Andrew gave confidential information to Jeffrey Epstein. A statement shared by Buckingham Palace yesterday reads in part, quote, "While the specific claims in question are for Mr. Mountbatten Windsor to address, if we are approached by Thames Valley Police, we stand ready to support them, as you would expect." The statement comes after police said yesterday they are assessing reports that the former prince sent trade reports to Epstein in 2010. That department has previously said it was investigating allegations that Epstein flew a young woman to Britain to have sex with Andrew that same year. Earlier in the day, Prince William and Princess Catherine released their own statement, saying they have been deeply concerned by recent revelations. The statements are the latest effort by the royal family to distance themselves from Andrew after the DOJ released more than 3 million pages of documents from its investigation, some of which revealed details about the relationship between Epstein and Andrew. For more, I want to bring in MS Now international reporter Inez de la Cuetara live with us from London. First, let's focus on these claims about Andrew sharing confidential trade documents, plus the alleged involvement of Epstein in that trade document sharing. What are the specifics at hand there? And then what do you make of the way that the royals are now saying they would support an investigation into that?
Good morning, Ali. So we knew that Andrew had close ties to Epstein, but we did learn even more about his close ties to Epstein in that latest batch of DOJ documents. There is one email that appears to show Andrew forwarding reports of a visit he had taken to Southeast Asia to Epstein. So this is a visit that he undertook as Britain's envoy for international trade. That police are looking into claims that may have been confidential information. And what's interesting here is that these allegations are very similar to the kind of scandal engulfing 10 Downing Street as well. The scandal there being that Peter Mandelson, the former British ambassador to the U.S., may have also leaked market-sensitive information to Epstein while he was business secretary. So he is now under criminal investigation. And I will say there are growing calls for Andrew to be treated the same way. So police did confirm they are investigating claims that Andrew may have leaked confidential information to Epstein. The palace, you mentioned it there, saying it is willing to assist police in their investigation. We've also heard from the king saying that he is deeply concerned by allegations involving his brother. We've heard from the Prince and Princess of Wales putting out these rare statements reacting to the scandal really involving the former Prince Andrew. These are rare statements, and they're all the more significant, I think, because they're being made at a time when Prince William is on a diplomatic mission at the moment to Saudi Arabia. Typically, the palace doesn't kind of comment on news of the day when the royals are on these diplomatic missions. The feeling being that the focus should be squarely on these the trips that the royals are undertaking. So the fact that they're reacting this time around, I think, goes to show that they feel they need to respond, and it's also reflective of the public sentiment here that anyone involved in the Epstein scandal needs to be held accountable.
Yeah, these are extraordinary times, and I want to seize on that last point that you made, that the public is demanding accountability here, because yesterday on Capitol Hill, there were a lot of British reporters, and the question that they were asking lawmakers is frankly one that I share, which is, what does it say that overseas British officials within the monarchy as well as in the prime minister's space are being threatened because they have to be held accountable for what happened in this instance, threatened with resignations, threatened with political pressure, and yet back here in the U.S., it's so much more muted, and people in power who are mentioned repeatedly in the Epstein files, even without criminal wrongdoing, they have proximity to Epstein, and yet that same pressure is not being applied. I wonder what the other side of that conversation looks like across the pond where you are.
Yeah, it's been really remarkable to watch those differences play out. But here, I mean, when you look at just the day we had yesterday at 10 Downing Street, it was really fast moving. And I think Keir Starmer was really worried for a minute there about his political future. We started the day with resignation. So his director of communications resigning. That came on the heels of his chief of staff resigning, his chief of staff taking responsibility for advising Starmer to appoint Peter Mandelson as British ambassador to the U.S. There were then growing calls throughout the day for Starmer to step down. So there were, of course, his political opponents calling for that, but also members of the Labour Party, some within Starmer's own party, saying that he should take responsibility here. We heard that from the head of the Scottish Labour Party, who was kind of the highest ranking Labour official, to call for Starmer to step down, saying it had become a distraction. But Starmer did meet yesterday behind closed doors with parliamentary members of the Labour Party, and British media reporting that he was very forceful in pushing back, saying that he will not be stepping down. So he lives to fight another day. But yes, there's been a big push for accountability here.
And I do think that this is a moment where accountability should be nonpartisan, especially given what we are talking about, the exploitation and trafficking of young girls who now just want justice for what has happened to them. MS Now international reporter Inez de la Cuetara, you are doing the tease for me because you're coming up a little bit on Morning Joe. You've, of course, got their background behind you. We're all family here. We'll see you in a little bit. Thank you.